Woo! Oh, look at the trees. Woo! Climbing up to this plane. Third trimester, people. I'm like 7 months pregnant, walking through the woods. Whew. Hey kids, I'm Selena from the city and beyond, and I'm pregnant with my first child. I am filming a little mini series about traveling while pregnant, one video per trimester, and this is the last video. The goal of this channel is to inspire and teach full-time employees on how to take most advantage of their time off from work. I wanted to cover this topic because a lot of expecting parents probably also feel like it's almost impossible to do this while pregnant, and that's simply just not true. And I'm here to be a friendly reminder that that doesn't have to be the case, and to give you just that much encouragement that you can travel while pregnant within your comfort zone. With that said, I am going to be reflecting on my experience traveling while pregnant, which may look very different from your experience while traveling while pregnant. I am 2 centimeters dilated doing this video, and I'm bouncing on my exercise ball. I actually feel a little lightheaded right now, but I gotta continue the video. Let's get into traveling in my 3rd trimester. This trip was to Portland, Oregon. We flew from Newark to Seattle actually, and then drove 2 hours to Portland going. Coming back, we just took the flight from Portland back to Newark. The 2-hour drive from Seattle and to Portland, actually I did fine, obviously made it, and so did my 1-year-old nephew. We did great on that 2-hour road trip. I was a little nervous, but we both made it just fine. There will be other videos about this trip, and if you're interested, I'll link them in the description below for you to click on them if they're already available. If they're not, just make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell so you know when they're posted. So just like the other videos, I'm gonna start with on the plane stuff with my first section of traveling while pregnant in your 3rd trimester. So on the plane, so I touched on this a little bit in the 2nd trimester video and said that it's probably more prominent in the 3rd trimester, in my opinion, from my experience. I would say you need an aisle seat. It's not just for going to the bathroom, but also if you feel some discomfort and you need to stretch. Even if you don't feel discomfort, actually, it is suggested that you get up almost every hour while you're on the plane. And this flight was from the East Coast to the West Coast. So we had about, 5-hour flight. And so I needed to get up, which I kind of failed at going, but coming back, I was a lot better at. Because I was trying to sleep or just relax, but I could definitely feel my feet swelling towards mid-flight or towards the end. And I was a little alarmed once I started to kind of feel my shoes I had Uggs on, and so my boots kind of felt a little more snugged, and they were new, but they didn't feel that way when I got on the plane. So I knew that my feet had swollen just a little bit, and then also my hands were starting to swell a little bit. So hydrating and stuff also helps, but getting up and moving around, of course you can just, do kind of when you're sitting and you kind of do that kind of marching in place while you sit, or I literally just kind of stood up, try to stretch a little bit, especially my hips during that time, because in my 3rd trimester, especially the point where when we flew during my 30th week, I was already having a lot of pelvic pain, or not pain, it was just discomfort that sometimes became pain. It looked very painful. And so just standing up and moving my hips and stretching my back, kind of doing like what I showed you guys last time, kind of like the cat cow on the actual chair at the back of your seat, was very helpful. So having that aisle seat is so necessary because you don't want to have to like tell somebody to move so you can get into the aisle, or two people to move so you get into the aisle. Really, in your third trimester, I can't think of one benefit of having the middle or the window seat instead of the aisle seat. And then there's the one of the top or most common reasons why people say to get the aisle seat in your third trimester, and that's because you're gonna have to go to the bathroom a lot. Because not only is it just because you're pregnant, but you're also gonna need to hydrate. You really, really need to hydrate, which again, I kind of failed at going. I didn't want to have to use the bathroom that much, so I tried not to drink too much water, or only when I felt thirsty. But if you know, when you feel thirsty is usually too late. You're already kind of getting to that place of being kind of dehydrated. So you really want to stay up on your liquids throughout the whole flight. Like, you should have a bottle of water with you outside of getting water from the crew. So yeah, you're gonna have to go. So this is just what it is. What it is. You're gonna have to just go, and it's okay because you're pregnant. And I think obviously a lot of people who stared at me while I was like standing up every few hours, or like every few I don't know, like 30 to 40 minutes, were probably like, well, she looks pregnant, so, and she looks pretty big. So they kind of knew, like, it's about that time in the pregnancy. The other point that I have is still related to the plane, and that's requesting a seatbelt extender. I know a lot of moms or parents, or expecting parents out there, or moms, don't need them. But if you feel like you're just, like for me, my seatbelt fit on one of the flights going to Portland or coming back. I want to say going, but it had just fit, so it was gonna be a little snugged if I moved, you know, or yeah, it wasn't loose enough for me to like move around and whatnot. So I thought about not getting a seatbelt extender, but then I thought to myself, like, why? Like, there's really no reason not to if it's available. So I just asked one of the crew members if they could get me a seatbelt extender going and coming back from Portland. And we were in Alaska Airlines. If you want to see our Alaska Airlines review, I'll link that also in the description below. We really have had pretty good experiences with Alaska. So that was one of the things that actually helped me feel at ease about being on this longer flight, because we had flown them before, had a great experience, and one of the things was the crew members. They're really, 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 they were really great. And I think maybe I'll make a video about like flying Alaska Airlines with a child, because we had our nephew with us and my brother and sister-in-law also. So that was an experience in itself. But being pregnant and us having a kid, it was a really good experience. But yeah, don't feel like ashamed of asking for a seatbelt extender. I know a lot of people have asked us on our channel for some of our airline reviews about seatbelt extenders, just because they're the person's plus size, or for whatever other reasons. And really, my consensus for family members or friends who've had to do it, and now I've had the experience of doing it, it's more like you're paying for a ticket, you want to be comfortable, and in this case you also want to be safe, because you don't want your baby to be snugged at all, or for anything to be resting in the wrong place. My baby is very I say, I guess, kind of vocal. Like, if he's uncomfortable, it's very clear. So I didn't want to do anything where he was like moving around extra, because not only are we on a plane and it's like shaking and stuff, but also like the discomfort of the belt not being in the right place or being too tight. So I was like, you know what? It doesn't matter if it feels weird to get one. Just get one if you need it. Anything that can prevent your baby from going into some sort of distress because you're on the plane, you should do it. Drink more water, make sure you're hydrated. Not sponsored, but any drinks with like electrolytes, like Smart Water or Gatorade, like if you can get your hands on one of those in the airport, even better to drink on the plane. Get a little boost, a little bit more than just hydration from the water. Compression socks. I had compression socks on going and coming home, and I would say that if I was 31 weeks at that point, it is very, very important to make sure you have compression socks. Like, I think in my first trimester video, I've had it for every trimester. Every time we flew, I always had my compression socks on, just because I know that that's something that's helpful while you're sitting on the plane, and definitely for those longer flights like this trip or my trip in the first trimester. Stretching and like I mentioned, stretching every hour is going to be very important, because as much as you want to sit and watch the movie or sleep, you really do need to get up and move your legs. And even if it's just, you know, kind of doing toe heel, standing in one place, something to like move your legs a little bit and make your muscles have some sort of movement, is helpful. I could tell the difference between, it was a big difference between us going to the West Coast than coming back home to the East Coast, because I actually focused on making sure I did everything I needed to do. So no swelling, maybe minimal swelling in my hands, but everything since this is pretty common, and all you can do is just keep hydrated. Don't have too much caffeine or any caffeine. Anything that makes you retain water. So a little similarly to my first trimester video, I'm gonna suggest that in your third trimester you really spread out your activities and also be kind to yourself and give yourself some grace if you can't do all the activities that you're used to doing. You're in your third trimester, you're a lot bigger, you may not be able to hike. You probably shouldn't hike if it's too like rocky or anything. It should be pretty flat terrain because of your balance being off at this point. So there's a lot to consider. So one of the things I would focus on is spreading out the activities also, because you don't know if you might get tired out quicker than you thought, or crampy, you know, like you might have something where you're like, my back hurts, or I'm just tired, and you can't go from one activity to the other as quickly as you used to, especially if you're an avid traveler. I think a lot of the time, and different point, not even just pregnancy, we try to travel the same way we're used to in different stages of our life, and sometimes you really just can't keep up, and that's okay. So just try to amend how you do it, and it might just be temporary. It's temporary while you're pregnant, or just really good practice for when you have a child. And honestly, between me being pregnant and us having our nephew on this trip, it was very good practice on like just really spreading out activities. And I actually thought at one point that it kind of felt like we didn't do too much, but then when we got home and we were talking about all the things that we did, I was like, wow, we actually did a lot. And it didn't feel stressful at all, at least to me. I don't think any of us felt very stressed. We're really laid back on this trip, and it really showed because we were in the house a lot, and we spent a good amount of money on this really nice Airbnb, and I think that we spent a lot of time there, but we also got to kind of see different parts of Portland and see the different parts of Portland that each of us wanted to really see before leaving. We took into consideration what everybody's needs were, including our little bee, and I think we were fine with that. And the four of us, like you guys have seen videos with us, me and Kamal and Gabriella and Brian on other trips, obviously, and so we know how to travel with each other. We just didn't know how to travel. We didn't know what it was going to be like with pregnant me and a little one, and I think we actually came out on top, and we did really well. And I mention this because if you are with a group of people and you don't want to hold anybody back, which I kind of covered in the first video also about traveling your first trimester, I think just have those conversations beforehand, because you don't want there to be any surprises, especially if it's with people that you've traveled with before and they're not used to you not being able to do certain things, or not wanting to hang out at certain spots, or taking things way slower. If you guys are used to always clubbing every time you guys go on trips, have that conversation before you guys go on your trip and say, hey, I might want to go dancing and go clubbing at least once, but maybe not every single night like we usually do. And maybe consider that in your plans. Maybe have like it be more of a group trip, or have like another person as a buffer. There's so many different options. But like I said, I think it's most important to be kind to yourself and give yourself some grace, because you will feel guilty if you go on a trip with people and you feel like you're holding them back. So I think having those conversations beforehand, we had lots and lots of conversations before this trip, and I felt like it really managed the expectations for everybody. But I also feel like because we've traveled with each other before, it was kind of easy. But I understand that there's going to be some cases where it's not so easy. So definitely have the conversations before you end up in that destination and everybody's expecting something different. So spread out those activities, spread out your itinerary, be kind to yourself, be considerate to yourself. But I obviously know that you want to be considerate and kind to others as well. But take all that into consideration. But remember, baby's number one really at this point. I'm also going to touch on the fact that there was a time difference. I was waking up at that point at home at 3 p.m. to 5 a.m. Like basically random times in the night, but it was kind of like 3 a.m. 4 a.m. I would wake up in the middle of the night. So that meant Pacific time, I was gonna wake up even earlier. So one of the things that I did was just kind of let my body stay on the same schedule, East Coast schedule. That was fine. I feel like it was okay. I mean, I think some people would probably find it hard, because that meant that I woke up at like, I would try to wake up no earlier than 4 a.m. Pacific time, but that is already 7 o'clock a.m. Eastern. So that would be like I'm waking up for the day. Like, and that was pretty much when me and my little one would like get up 6:30, 7 a.m. Eastern. So that meant that I was up pretty early in Pacific time. So what I would do is just stay in bed, because obviously my husband and my brother, like the rest of the house was not awake at that time. My nephew was many of the times, maybe even sometimes, I think the first morning even earlier. And but I would just stay in bed, chat on my phone, look at social media, maybe try to like lay down and not turn anything on and just try to go back to sleep, or just rest my eyes and body so I wouldn't be tired throughout the day. But what would end up happening as you can assume, that also meant that I wanted to go to sleep earlier. So I would try not to go to bed no earlier than 9 or 10 a.m. I believe, which made it really hard for New Year's Eve, because midnight in Pacific time was what, 2 a.m. right? No, 3? 1, 2, 3 a.m. Eastern time. So I needed a nap to last. I think we all needed a nap to last that night. So and it's fine. It's totally fine. I just mentioned that as an example of like adjusting and trying to like be kind to yourself. So that might be like an example that might actually happen during one of your trips, and you have to just decide what best suits you so you can have fun and not just have to like go to sleep early or wake everybody up at 4 or anything like that, because obviously people are on vacation. But yeah, I don't think I really did any naps any of the days, which I was very surprised about, which would have happened the first trimester for sure, but I didn't actually nap during this trip. So that, I don't know, take that however you want, but it worked for me. And for the favorite part, packing. So the packing section is not that different from the last two videos, but I did have some additions, but I'll go through the list of what I packed this time. Still brought my blood pressure machine, and I keep stressing, if you don't bring it any other time because you don't have gestational hypertension or hypertension pre-pregnancy, if you are a person of color and are some type of minority, really doesn't matter which one, you probably should. Any woman of color really needs to bring probably a blood pressure machine with her on these trips, especially if it's far, like not close to home. Like I think I went on one more trip actually like a week or two ago. Me and Kamal went on a very quick weekend trip to Delaware to do a little road trip for one night. Maybe I wouldn't have brought it, but if like you really don't want to, but if you're going a decent amount away from home, I would suggest you bring your blood pressure machine. It's just a good way to just see where things are. Like I said before, preeclampsia is very prominent in the community of minority women, and so I think it is important to bring one, even if you don't have a history of hypertension or anything like that, especially during your pregnancy. It's just good to have. Insulin, because I have gestational diabetes during my pregnancy. I am so happy. I'm 2 days away from being induced. I am so happy that I'm almost done with this, and I just hope that this is the end of it, because it is kind of a pain. This whole insulin thing, you have no control over your fasting sugars, and that was the one that I had the hardest time keeping in check. Everything else with food was fine, but that fasting sugar, that's what I needed the insulin for, so that's what I had to bring with me on this trip. Vitamins and other medications, so your prenatals, Tums for extra calcium. Tums is also good just because in your third trimester period, you're probably getting heartburn or indigestion a lot more because of the baby getting so big. So yeah, you want to bring Tums, or just keep in mind that you want to buy some when you get to your destination. The things that were in addition, because those I've mentioned in the other videos, the two things that for sure are new to this is my heating pad and my belly bands. So now that this little guy is or at the time, he was getting obviously bigger. 30, 31 weeks. He was getting bigger. My pelvic discomfort was randomly, it would be very, very painful, but the discomfort was definitely increasing. And having the belly band was helpful to kind of relieve some of that weight. And then also having the heating pad, because my lower back especially would just like get so tense, and I wasn't sure what else to do. So I actually, after this trip, this Portland trip, I started going to physical therapy also to help me with my pelvic discomfort and my pelvic floor and all that stuff, because it was getting pretty difficult. If you actually find yourself in the same situation, I would highly recommend physical therapy. It was so helpful. But at the time, I didn't have my physical therapist yet, so I didn't know too many exercises besides what I found online, and what I got suggestions from my doula. The heating pad was clutch. The belly band I wore after, I believe, one of the days where I knew that we walked a lot. So the next day I put the belly band on while we're in the house and just wore it for like a couple of hours. I'm sure that there's many other things that people suggest to bring with you in your third trimester. And I would definitely seek that advice. But you probably know like what things make you feel more comfortable, if it's an exercise block, if it's, using pillows, if it, it's a certain cream that you like to massage on your side. Bring it with you because you will be grateful, or just intend to buy it when you get there. If it's something like a tube of something, you can always buy that. But definitely think about, I would suggest for packing for your third trimester especially, think about the things that you use a lot in the house for comfort, or relaxation, and just bring it with you. Thank you for joining this travel pregnancy journey with me, and congrats to all the expecting parents who are going on their own adventures during pregnancy. If you really liked this series, please make sure you subscribe and click the notification bell for more videos. I have a couple of other ideas, like I said, that I might want to make videos about for traveling while pregnant to help make your journey that much easier. This is my first time making these type of videos, so please give it a big old like for some encouragement, and I guess I'll see you soon. Bye.